What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 9. Thursday Night Football.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
Okay, in this video, I'm going to give you my top picks for the Thursday Night Football Showdown between the Indianapolis Colts and the New York Jets. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Oh, and good news, guys. Make sure to stay tuned to the very end of this video because we removed the box that was popping up and blocking the lineup. So now you can see a full lineup using these picks that we made in this video if you stay to the very end. Okay, guys, let's take a look at this Thursday Night Football Showdown between the Indianapolis Colts and the New York Jets. So at the quarterback position, I like Carson Wentz from the Indianapolis Colts playing the New York Jets, who have the third worst defense overall. They're middle of the pack defending opposing quarterbacks, and Carson Wentz has averaged 18.6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 3.1 rush attempts per game. He's going to be about 70% owned, projected at 18.4 fantasy points here tonight. He's 10,800 DraftKings salary. Vegas thinks there's going to be 46 points scored in this game, with the Colts favored by 10.5. So you got a decent rushing floor from Carson Wentz. Now that his ankles are healed up, he's more of a mobile quarterback. He'll scramble 3 to 4 times a game, and he scored 20, 21, and 17 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Carson Wentz here versus the New York Jets. Now, what about the quarterback for the New York Jets? He had the most passing yards out of all the quarterbacks last week. He was a big surprise. So take a look at Mike White from the New York Jets playing the Colts, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Mike White, he scored 31 fantasy points last week. He had 5 rush attempts. He's only going to be about 39% owned, projected at 14.1 fantasy points here tonight, but that projection seems a little bit low. I don't think he's going to score 31 fantasy points tonight, but I think he could get somewhere between 15 and 20 fantasy points. And hey, you never know, he could have back-to-back fantastic games. He's 9,800 DraftKings salary. And with the Jets expected to be trailing by 10.5, this could be a passing game script. So if he catches fire, you could get him at low ownership. You're not saving a ton of salary at the quarterback position, only saving 1,000 salary on DraftKings. So that's why I think the ownership on Carson Wentz is almost double that of Mike White. If Mike White was a little less expensive here, I think his ownership would be much higher, but I do like that low ownership. I think this could be a surprise pick. So I think Mike White is interesting here versus the Indianapolis Colts.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. I like Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts playing the New York Jets, who have the 3rd worst defense overall, and they give up the absolute most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Jonathan Taylor has averaged 20.7 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 15.1 rush attempts per game and 3.1 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 66% owned, projected at 19.2 fantasy points here tonight, and he's 11,600 DraftKings salary, so he's got a fantastic matchup, and this could turn into a running game script. So I think Jonathan Taylor makes a pretty good captain play here tonight. So I like Jonathan Taylor here versus the New York Jets. Okay, now the running back for the New York Jets that I would play would be Michael Carter. And he's averaged 13.4 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 10.4 rush attempts per game and 5.3 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 49% owned, projected at 13.6 fantasy points here tonight. He's 8,600 DraftKings salary, but take a look at this. Michael Carter has scored 32, 17, and 15 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And the last 2 games, he got 14 and 9 pass targets on top of 15 and 11 rush attempts. So what's that? 29 touches last week, 20 touches the week before that. So he's getting some pretty heavy volume. So I think he makes sense as a decent play here. So I like Michael Carter here versus the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Ty Johnson is about 2,200 less than Michael Carter, but he only got 4 rush attempts and 6 pass targets last week. But he did score 20 fantasy points. He's going to be about 20% owned. Now, I think I would just pay up and go with Michael Carter, almost getting double the opportunity in touches pretty consistently. So I think it just makes sense to go with Michael Carter here. But if you do want the lower ownership dart throw, not necessarily a dart throw, but the lower ownership running back to save some salary, and a guy that does have 15 to 20 point upside if he has a ceiling game, you can take a look at Ty Johnson here versus the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. So the stud wide receiver on the slate, there's no T.Y. Hilton here tonight. He is out. So I like Michael Pittman Jr. from the Indianapolis Colts. And Michael Pittman Jr. has averaged 16.9 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 8.1 pass targets per game. And I love this pick because he's on the field for 92% of the snaps. He's going to be about 57% owned, projected at 16.5 fantasy points here tonight. He's 10,200 DraftKings salary. So Michael Pittman Jr. scored 31 fantasy points last week off of 15 pass targets. So they are force-feeding this guy the ball. With no T.Y. Hilton, he should get plenty of pass targets here tonight. So I like Michael Pittman Jr. here versus the New York Jets.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. Our NBA tools are awesome. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Now, for the New York Jets, the top wide receiver that they've got going is Jamison Crowder. And he's averaging 13.1 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 7.5 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 32% owned, projected at 11.1 fantasy points here tonight. He's 7,800 DraftKings salary, and he scored 17 fantasy points last week off of 9 pass targets. So I think Jamison Crowder is a pretty good play here. With the Jets expected to be trailing by 10.5, he should get plenty of pass targets. And the Colts give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. So I like Jamison Crowder here versus the Indianapolis Colts. Now, a super low salary play here. He's going to find his way into some of my lineups just so I can stack some studs. Take a look at Ashton Duel from the Indianapolis Colts. Now, he's only averaged 1.4 fantasy points per game on the season, but the last 2 games, he's gotten 4 pass targets in the last 2 games. He's going to be about 25% owned, and he's only $200 DraftKings salary. So with T.Y. Hilton out, if you're looking for a dart throw, this is a true dart throw, but for only $200 salary, he doesn't need much to hit value, and he got 4 pass targets in each of his games, the past 2 games. So if he's going to get 4 pass targets again here tonight, catches a couple of those balls, could probably hit value right there, and if he finds his way into the end zone, he'll be in the winning lineup for sure. So I like Ashton Duel here versus the New York Jets. Okay, now moving on to the tight end position. Not much to like here at the tight end position. You got Tyler Croft from the New York Jets, who hasn't done much, but he did score 10 fantasy points last week off of 2 pass targets, and he's only 4,000 DraftKings salary. The Colts give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. He's only going to be about 3% owned, so that's a super dart throw, but he did score 10 fantasy points last week. Think he caught a touchdown, but I'm going to stay away from that play. If I'm going to play a tight end here tonight, it'd probably be a guy like Mo Alley Cox from the Indianapolis Colts. He's averaging 6.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 3.1 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 14% owned, projected at 7 fantasy points here tonight. He's 5,200 DraftKings salary, and he didn't score any fantasy points last week. He scored 12 and 10 fantasy points the 2 weeks before that off of 4, 3, and 3 pass targets. So he should get about 3 to 4 pass targets. And I mean, he's got to find the end zone here to hit value. And the Jets give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. So it does look like I'm probably going to stay away from the tight end picks here. I'm probably not going to play a tight end in my lineup. So let's go back to the wide receivers. The other wide receiver that I want to bring up here, because there's no tight ends really on the slate that I want to play, like I would just rather pay up for a guy like Zach Pascal or Zach Pascal from the Indianapolis Colts. He's averaging 8.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 5.4 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 25% owned, and he's on the field for 88% of the snaps, projected at 8.5 fantasy points here tonight. He's 6,600 DraftKings salary, and he scored 9 fantasy points last week off of 8 pass targets. So he's getting plenty of opportunity. So I think he's a pretty decent play, although I would much prefer a guy like Jamison Crowder for a little bit more. But Zach Pascal is a good play here tonight. So I like Zach Pascal here versus the New York Jets.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.